So 'tis the season for the Game Awards 2019. The nominees for this show have been revealed, and there's some red flags going up here. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the Game Awards 2019, and some people are not very happy with how this is playing out, what the nominees are, and why one game has the most nominations. I'll give you one guess as to what game that is. Now, as far as the Game Awards are concerned, I don't think it's a bad show. You know, it's a show that when it was initially first done, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but as time has gone on, I've sort of softened my stance on it. I think they've started to focus more on the things that matter, such as the actual games, the actual people behind the games, instead of things just like musical acts that aren't really relevant to the world of gaming. So I think Jeff Keighley has done a better job with the show. I think there's still definitely room for improvement, but there's room for improvement with everything. But of course, the elephant of the room was going to be the Death Stranding situation, which we're going to talk about more so towards the end of the video. But Death Stranding actually is up for the most nominations with 10 nominations, and a lot of people are not happy about that, and we're going to talk about why there are some red flags with that. So I just want to look at the nominees to start things off, look at some of the categories that I would be interested in. Obviously, I'm not going to take a look at VR or AR game, as I am not a VR gamer. I'm not a VR trooper or anything like that. I just want to look at some relevant categories, check out what is being nominated, and then we'll get into the Death Stranding situation. So let's take a look at role-playing game. Obviously, that's a pretty popular genre in 2019. And taking a look at the nominees, we have Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and The Outer Worlds. Now, most of these games I think are fine. You know, Kingdom Hearts 3 should be in the conversation. A lot of people were sort of, you know, a bit disappointed with that game. The Outer Worlds has been reviewing very, very well as well. But when you look at Monster Hunter World Iceborne DLC, like, I understand it really sort of transformed the game and really sort of opened up the game, but why is Dragon Quest XI-S for the Nintendo Switch not on this category? That was one of the highest rated role-playing games of 2019, and if we're to believe that these games are being based on things like Metacritic scores like we've been told in the past, I would think that game would be right up there in this list. You obviously only have 5 nominees here. Why not just add a 6th one? Disco Elysium, I've never heard of that game. Was that game a bigger game than Dragon Quest XI-S on the Nintendo Switch? You know, I don't know, you know, not a terrible category, but I think Dragon Quest should have been in the conversation. Let's take a look at family game, because, oh look, it's the Nintendo Award, because Nintendo is just for kiddies, I guess. We have Luigi's Mansion 3, we have Ring Fit Adventure, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Yoshi's Crafted World. So, family game, I mean, the best game on this list to me is Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm going to assume, because I have not looked at these categories beforehand, that Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to be in the Game of the Year contendership. Do I think it will win Game of the Year? Probably not. You know, Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry 5, I think those games will probably edge it out, but it definitely deserves to be in the conversation. So looking at these games, I would have to give the edge to Luigi's Mansion 3. Let's look at some other things here. Now let's take a look at Content Creator of the Year, which is a streamer or content creator who has made an important and positive impact on the industry in 2019. We have Courage, Dr. Lupo, Ewok, Grefg, and Shroud. I don't know who any of these people are. I'm not on here, so, you know, whatever. I won't be voting for this, but yeah, I don't know any of these people, so good luck, everyone. I guess I will give it to Courage, because he's the only one with a beard out of all these people. Not really feeling Greg's glasses. Ewok just looks like an annoying Fortnite kid. Dr. Lupo looks kind of like a lawyer, and Shroud looks like he's trying to make it, you know, in the world of acting, like this is my headshot. So I'm gonna give it to Courage. He looks like the most genuine person out of all this. Hopefully he doesn't have any skeletons in his closet that sort of bite me in the ass eventually, you know, that come out about this dude. I've played a lot of indie games this year. Let's look at some indie stuff here. We have Baba Is You, Disco Elysium once again, Katana Zero, Outer Wilds, and Untitled Goose Game. Out of these games, I would say Katana Zero is probably the best game available on this list. I do feel like there is some stuff missing on here. I'm surprised to see all these esports things here. Esports coach, esports event, esports game of the year, esports host, esports player, esports team. Do we really need all that much esports? Like, I understand esports is a very large industry, but I feel like if you don't follow esports, even if you're a casual esports follower, I feel like a lot of these things won't really sort of make sense to you. They're just sort of things that you're just not going to understand, like who are these players? You know, let's take a look at multiplayer game of the year here. We have Apex Legends, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, and The Division 2. Not a terrible list. You know, I like Tetris 99. I know Modern Warfare is evidently a really good Call of Duty game. The Division 2 kind of bombed. Apex Legends, that was a game, I played it for a couple hours and I just couldn't get into it really, but you know, that's cool. Community support, what is this? Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness. So this is like the doing your job award. Like, all communities should be doing this. All video game companies should be doing things like this. Are we really gonna say Bungie is, you know, outstanding transparency? Ubisoft, EA, you're gonna say that EA has outstanding transparency when it comes to their games? You know, maybe I'm reading this category wrong. Maybe I am wrong on this category, but to me that doesn't really resonate as any of those companies. Now let's take a look at some of the bigger awards here. Let's take a look at, there's action and action adventure game, which is kind of interesting here. So let's take a look at action adventure. We have Borderlands 3, Control, there's good old Death Stranding. Of course, Death Stranding needs to be in there. Resident Evil 2, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and Sekiro. Sekiro is another game that I could definitely see being in the conversations for things like Games of the Year. Obviously, it was very highly received on Metacritic, a very hard and punishing game. I played it for a few hours, you know, a little too difficult for my liking, but it was fun, and I could definitely see the scope of the game, and there was a lot of good things about it. Out of this list, I would have to say that the best action adventure game is Resident Evil 2. Like, that was one of the best games of this year, and I think it is better than all these other games. I would probably say Link's Awakening, probably number 3, I would say. Sekiro is number 2, Death Stranding number 4, Control, that game really got a lot of mixed reviews, so I'm not quite sure why that would be in there, but let's take a look at action game of the year. We have Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Modern Warfare, DMC 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. Now, this is interesting to me because obviously Astral Chain is getting the nod. That's a game that definitely deserves to be in the action thing. But is Apex Legends and Modern Warfare really action games? You know, I could understand Devil May Cry 5. I would definitely put that in there. But Gears 5, like, those are really just, you know, shooter games. They're multiplayer based games that have, you know, Gears 5 has a story, but most people play Gears for the multiplayer. Same thing with things like Modern Warfare. Same thing with things like Apex Legends, which actually has no story. It is an all online multiplayer thing. Now let's take a look at the game of the year. Obviously, this is the biggest category. What is the best game of the year? And where's Luigi's Mansion? Oh, wow. Okay. So Control, which was like a 70 something on Metacritic, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2. Where the hell is DMC 5? Are you joking right now? Sekiro, Smash Brothers, and The Outer Worlds. Now, obviously, Smash Brothers is going to be on here because of things. The game was after the cutoff for 2018's nominations. The game released after that in the beginning of December. But I have some problems with Game of the Year here. There are some definite problems. Control, I don't think should be in the conversation. There's been fans of Remedy games that I know personally that didn't really enjoy this game. The Outer Worlds, okay, but where's Luigi's Mansion? Where's Devil May Cry 5? Are those games not as good as Death Stranding and Control? And, you know, the Death Stranding situation, like I said, Death Stranding is up for 10 different nominations, making it the most nominated game of 2019. And if that's not throwing up red flags for you, it definitely should. Now, do I think Death Stranding is a bad game? Not at all. Not at all. I've put about 13 hours into the game, and I'm seeing the game as a pretty solid game. You know, I like the graphical style of the game. I think the audio is really well done. The controls, you know, they're okay. You know, I think they work for the most part. The gameplay itself, though, is definitely more of a mixed bag. I don't hate the whole delivery system mechanic. I think it sort of works and it sort of plays into the story. And as you play the game more and get into additional chapters, you learn more about the world around you. You get more gameplay mechanics and things like being able to build things, build certain structures like bridges and paved roads to make your travel easier. So I get it. There's a nice community aspect as well that I think could have been expanded upon a lot more. But really, the gameplay in Death Stranding is a mixed bag. You know, I think the actual combat combat in the game, although it is few and far between, could have been definitely expanded upon a lot more. It could have been a lot tighter and been a lot better. And because of that, I feel like it sort of holds the game back. If you're going to have subpar sort of combat in your game, just don't include combat into the game. Don't try to shoehorn it in. Let the game be natural. But the big problem with Death Stranding getting 10 nominations and being on Game of the Year over games like Devil May Cry 5 and Luigi's Mansion 3 has to be the connection between Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima. Obviously, they have a very, very good friendship, It has pretty much been a Death Stranding centered award show for the past couple years when it comes to new gameplay information. Jeff Keighley is in the actual game. Jeff Keighley is in Death Stranding. So who nominated these games? Obviously, we're not going by things like Metacritic score, because if we were going by things like Metacritic score, things like Devil May Cry 5 and things like Luigi's Mansion 3 would have made the list over a game like Death Stranding. So there's just a huge conflict of interest here, and a lot of people were looking at how this situation was going to play out, how many nominations Death Stranding was going to end up getting, and really it just sort of played out the way that people thought it was going to play out. A lot of awards for Death Stranding, and there's a big conflict of interest in this. If Death Stranding wins some awards, I think, you know, whatever, that's fine. If it ends up winning Game of the Year, though, there's going to be a huge fallout from this situation, because there's obviously a sort of conflict of interest when it comes to Death Stranding and the host and creator of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley. So those are my thoughts on the Game Awards 2019 nominations. I just sort of watch the show nowadays to see what big announcements are done there, and to see, you know, if that cool drunk guy comes out on stage and starts trash talking everyone, because I really like that dude. But it's definitely going to be a very controversial year, definitely a show I think is going to be worth watching now, just to see any sort of fallout and any sort of implications going on with Death Stranding. But let me know in the comment section down below how you feel about everything. Do you think that Death Stranding is getting too many awards? Do you think that games like Luigi's Mansion 3 and Devil May Cry 5 were snubbed for the Game of the Year category? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Yes, I did get a new pop-up green screen behind me, because I'm always trying to somewhat improve the quality on this channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.